Endings and Beginnings. Sally couldn't remember when a warm bath felt so good. She carefully stepped out of the tub and wrapped the pink towel around her body. She fed lots of happy thoughts, thankful for her family and her home, and especially her sisters. Alex sat on the bottom bunk with her hand on her chin, watching Sally intently. So, what was it like to be all by yourself like that? Sally slipped on a sundress and princess panties while she thought about her answer. Weird was all she could think of to say. Just then, Mom came in holding Rennie's hand. Sally, we have some leftover mac and cheese from last night. Would you like to have it as a side dish with our steak? Sally was astonished by this question. The thought of having her two favorite foods on the same plate was more wonderful than she could imagine. Yes, she said enthusiastically, which made everyone laugh. Rennie wobbled to the drawer and pulled out a hairbrush. Here, Sally, brush your hair. All three Morris girls knew their bath routine well. They always brushed their hair while it was wet, to get the tangles out. Thank you, Rennie, Sally said kindly. That reminds me, I have a birthday present for you. She knelt down by the bottom bunk bed, reached under it, and pulled out a package wrapped in colorful birthday paper. Rennie dropped the brush and grabbed the present. For me, she squealed and ripped open the paper. Ooh, she said as she looked at the tub of hair accessories. Pretty. Sally helped her open the lid and pull out the colorful bows and rubber bands and clips, enjoying the expression of delight on her little sister's face. You wear these, Rennie said, holding out the sparkly star barrettes to Sally. And I'll wear these. With that, Rennie wrapped her small round arms around all the rest of the hair accessories and scooped them up. When the doorbell rang, all three girls, with beautifully adorned hair, rushed to open the front door. Alex held Wrinkle's collar so he wouldn't lick their visitor. Rennie flipped on the hall light, and Sally opened the door. My, don't you look pretty, Gwen said, greeting Sally with a big smile. Gwen, Sally exclaimed. I didn't know you were coming. Sally leaned forward to give Gwen a hug. Rafa couldn't miss your welcome home dinner, could he? Gwen grinned, pulling out Rafa from the ballet bag on her lap. Sally scooped him up and hugged him tightly. Oh, thank you, Gwen, thank you. And who are these beautiful girls? Gwen asked, noticing all three girls had very decorated hair. Sally was a little embarrassed, remembering that yesterday she told Gwen that she was an only child. Today I have two amazing sisters, she said awkwardly. This is Alex, and this is Rennie. What was Gwen going to do? Would she be mad at Sally for sort of lying? Would she tell her sisters that Sally had not wanted to be their sister yesterday? Sally watched Gwen intently. Gwen broke into a huge smile and held out her hand to Alex. I'm so happy to meet you, she said. Alex shook her hand and said, Nice to meet you too. Just then Rennie burst into tears, pointing at the wheelchair and saying, Owie, owie. Sally rushed to her and hugged her. It's okay, Rennie, Gwen is not hurt. Rennie doesn't like anything that reminds her of the hospital, Alex explained to Gwen. I think your wheelchair made her afraid of all the time she had to go in for tests and blood draws and stuff. Gwen bent over to talk to Rennie just as Mom came out of the kitchen and Auntie came down the stairs, pulling her wet hair into a ponytail. Rennie rushed to Mom, who picked her up and comforted her. Auntie greeted Gwen with a smile and an I love showers. Gwen laughed. Just then a lime green roller skate pulled up and parked in front of Auntie's gold car. Lucy's here, Sally exclaimed, and both big girls rushed out the front door to meet her. After what seemed like an hour of introductions and giving tours of the house and helping Mom get dinner on the table, everyone was seated in the dining room with steak and mac and cheese in front of them. Sally sat proudly in the place of honor, Daddy's chair, at the far end of the rectangle table. Daddy was on her right, and Lucy was on her left. As Sally looked at Alex, who insisted on sitting next to Lucy, she was full of love and happiness. Rennie was in her special feeding chair next to Alex, and Mom was cutting up steak for her at the other end of the table. Auntie slid out from her seat between Daddy and Gwen to go blow her nose in the bathroom, then wash her hands and return. Sorry about that, she said. Sleeping in a garden next to a doghouse did wonders for my allergies. Everybody laughed, and Daddy clinked his glass with a spoon. Before we begin eating, I would like to give a toast. Here's to the 3 women who watched over my daughter while she was on her walkabout. Auntie, Gwen, and Lucy, thank you." He lifted his glass full of Coke and clinked it with Sally, who was holding her milk glass up high. "I'm so glad we didn't have to call the police." Everyone else clinked with each other, and then dove into enjoying Mom's amazing cooking. Sally couldn't remember steak ever tasting so good, or mac and cheese ever being so cheesy. Her brain wanted to think about everything that she had experienced on her walkabout, but her heart encouraged her to be still and enjoy the moment. Throughout dinner, the whole walkabout story unfolded. Gwen was very kind when she told about Sally's exit from the church. Rather than saying she ran away afraid, Gwen explained that Sally got up to go to the bathroom and never came back. Auntie jumped in and talked about how she had a hard time following Sally, trying to stay far enough away so Sally wouldn't know she was there, but close enough to not lose track of her. And Lucy had everyone laughing when she told about driving up to her house and seeing a little girl superhero standing there. During dessert, leftover birthday cake, Daddy brought up the subject of consequences. Sally braced herself for her timeout sentence. But Daddy totally surprised her with his verdict. "Mom and I have discussed it, and we have decided that, Sally, you need to come up with your own consequences for this behavior." Sally was astonished. "You mean I don't have to be on timeout forever?" "Not if you can think of a better consequence for your action," Daddy responded. Sally was so surprised that she couldn't think very well, so everyone chimed in and offered suggestions. By the end of dessert, it had been decided that Sally would make it right with everyone involved. She would do 5 hours of community service at God's Place with Gwen, and clean the litter boxes at Lucy's house 5 times, and go back to the house where she'd slept in the doghouse and see what she could do for the people who lived there. As for making it right with Mom and Auntie, that was way easier than Sally expected. Mom and Sally agreed that the next time the "I'm right" part of Sally wanted to take over and have a fit, Sally would take herself outside, count to 10, and then choose to feed happy thoughts. Sally promised to do her best not to feed the grumpy thoughts anymore. And all Auntie wanted was for Sally to help her write a story about her adventures. After dinner, when Sally was talking to Lucy about her consequences, Lucy called it outrageous grace. Sally liked the sound of that and looked forward to talking with Lucy more about it when she went over to clean the litter boxes. By the time Gwen and Lucy left, Sally was exhausted and took herself right to bed. Daddy and Mom came in for tucks after putting Rennie down, and Sally got a special burrito tuck from Daddy and 3 extra kisses from Mom. As she snuggled under her freshly washed blue blanket with the pink hearts on it, Sally felt secure and peaceful and thankful. She whispered, "Good night, I love you," to Alex, who was cuddled on the bunk below her, and then drifted off to sleep, happy to be home and in her own bed. Sally was marching behind her beautiful daddy, singing the dinosaur marching song and stomping happily with plaid rain boots on. The vibrant green grass was practically singing along, and the puffy white clouds seemed to form every variety of prehistoric creature in the cobalt blue sky. Daddy took a sharp left turn, and they were suddenly in a rocky red desert. "Daddy, stop! You're going the wrong way!" Sally desperately wanted to run back to the happy green grass. "Trust me," Daddy said. "Okay," she said hesitantly. She followed Daddy, looking at the red sand and funny little rocks all around her. "What is this place?" "This is the Garden of Broken Hearts," Daddy replied sweetly. He gazed at each rock with love and compassion. "What?" Sally shrieked, freaked out by the thought of a whole garden of broken hearts. She started running away, but Daddy's big arms scooped her up and held her close. "It's okay, sweetheart, it's okay," he sang, rocking her back and forth. "Why did you bring me here?" Sally asked, trying to control the fear in her own little heart. "I have a job for you. Will you deliver something for me?" Daddy put Sally back down on the red, rocky ground. She stood tall and brave. "Of course I will, Daddy," she said courageously. Suddenly, there was a funny-shaped rock right in front of Sally, and she looked down at it. Daddy was squatting next to it. Sally squatted next to him and leaned in. As she looked closely, Sally realized it wasn't a rock at all. It was a little burgundy heart beating weakly. She leaned down and scooped it up, hugging it to her chest. Oh, Daddy, this one needs help. Will you fix it, please? Sally held the heart up to Daddy, and he seemed to glow as he gazed tenderly at it. He wrapped his big hands around Sally's little hands that were holding the heart. They were hot, but it didn't hurt. Sally could feel the heart moving under her fingers. When beautiful Daddy took his hands away, the heart was bright red and beating happily. Daddy smiled as he listened to it. Now, go take it to Rennie, he whispered. Sally woke with the rhythm of the heartbeat still ringing in her ears. That was the 5th time she'd had the same dream, every night since she got home from her walkabout. Weird, Sally thought. Maybe God is trying to talk to me. Then she was distracted by a delicious smell. Mom must be baking cinnamon rolls. Sally leaned over the bunk and looked down at Alex, sleeping soundly under her pink cowgirl sheets below. Good morning, Spister, she giggled, dropping her stuffed kitty Rafa right on Alex's belly. Alex grabbed Rafa without even opening her eyes and threw him back up. Good morning yourself, Spister, she giggled. Then she jumped up, climbed the ladder, and joined Sally on the top bunk, sitting crisscross applesauce and leaning her chin on her hands. Tell me Lucy's Spister story again, she urged. I love that story. Well, said Sally, matching her sister's sitting position and practically touching knees with her, Lucy and her 2 sisters used to have to play outside all the time and use their imaginations and make up their own games because they lived before TV and video games were invented. Alex rolled her eyes back in her head. She couldn't even imagine such a world. One day during the summer, when Lucy was 7 or 8, she couldn't remember which it was so long ago, she and her sisters were making up a new jump rope song to sing while they did double dutch. Lucy was especially good at this and had made up many songs before. This time, when she started rhyming, she made up a new word. This is how it went. Iva, Lucy, Geraldine, special sisters, yes, are we. A shorter, easy word would be Spisters, Spisters, yes, are we. Her sisters loved the new word so much they started right then and there to call each other Spisters, and they called each other that all the rest of their lives. Sally finished her story by sitting up straight and nodding triumphantly. We'll have to ask Papa Man to get us a jump rope so we can practice ours, Alex said. The girls started to sing their names, but were interrupted by a loud stop from Rennie. Wait, me too, she squealed. Alex and Sally climbed down and met Rennie as she came into the room. They giggled and joined hands, dancing around in a circle. In unison, on Sally's go, they launched into their soprano version at the top of their lungs. Alex, Sally, Rennie too, special sisters through and through. A shorter, easy word would be Spisters, Spisters, yes, are we. As the trio fell to the floor laughing, Mom called from her room, Girls, please get dressed and brush your teeth. Daddy, Rennie, and I need to leave in 30 minutes. Auntie will be here soon. Auntie is here now, came the melodious call of Daddy's older sister. The girls squealed and got up to hug Auntie as she came in. Auntie squeezed them all, then reinforced Mommy's instructions. Alex and Sally jumped into gear, brushing their teeth, while Auntie helped Rennie put her new sparkly star clips in her hair. Do you have comfortable clothes for our long ride to Oregon tomorrow? Auntie asked. The girls nodded. Put them and your toothbrush in the overnight bag for the Ronald McDonald House tonight. Sally felt fear begging to be fed. She focused her thoughts on the fun she and Alex were going to have with Papa Man and Nana Gigi next week. What time tomorrow are we leaving? She asked Auntie. We won't leave until everything is good with Rennie, she chimed, hugging Rennie tightly and kissing her on the head. The doctors will tell us when it's okay. Then we'll get out of town so Rennie can recover in peace and quiet. Auntie had whispered the last part in Sally's ear so she wouldn't upset Rennie. Sally didn't want to think about today. It was going to be a long day of waiting while Rennie was in surgery. At least they'd have an adventure in Los Angeles with Auntie before going to the Ronald McDonald House to spend the night. Sally redirected her thoughts to Ralph and Salsa, the cats that were waiting for her at Papa Man and Nana Gigi's house. Do you think Papa Man will let me clean the litter boxes? Sally asked. She had done it twice for Lucy and was working on being fast and clean. Absolutely, Auntie exclaimed. I'm sure he'd be delighted to let you do that. Auntie smiled, and then got up and walked to the door. Besides, you're going to have some extra poop to scoop this trip. She reached out into the hall and brought in a plaid fabric pet carrier, placing it on the floor in front of Sally. Sally looked in, and her eyes got wide. There, staring back at her, were two bright blue eyes set in silver fur. "Mercury!" she squealed. "It's Mercury!" She opened the door and scooped him out. "Did Daddy say yes?" "Daddy said yes," came a deep voice from down the hall. Sally ran to meet him, smothering him with kisses. "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, Daddy. You're the best Daddy in the whole wide galaxy." Daddy laughed and kissed her on the head. "Now make sure Mercury is kept apart from Ralph and Sasa the first day or two so they can get to know each other slowly." Daddy scratched Mercury behind the ears. "We want them to be friends," he said. "Okay, Daddy, I will," chimed Sally, cuddling Mercury, who was very curious about this new place. "Put him in the bathroom while you have breakfast. Auntie has food and litter in there for him," Daddy instructed, walking back down the hall. "Auntie will teach you how to take care of him." Daddy's Jeep was packed with Mom's bag, toys for Rennie, and 2 travel mugs of coffee. The plan was for the boys, Daddy, Wrinkle, and Mercury, to sleep at their house tonight after Rennie's surgery, and for the girls to stay at the Ronald McDonald house. Daddy would bring Mercury tomorrow for Sally to take to Oregon with her. "The surgery is scheduled for 1 o'clock, so we'll call you when she goes into the operating room," Mom said, holding Alex and Sally tight and running her fingers through their hair. Daddy was holding Rennie. "Give your sister a big hug and kiss," he said. Daddy put Rennie down, and she stood there looking a little confused. Alex walked over and gave her a hug and kiss. "I love you, Rennie," she said quickly, then hurried inside, supposedly to check on Mercury, who had been moved to the hall in his carrier. Sally could feel fear wanting to be fed inside her, but she had been practicing feeding happy thoughts for 5 days now, and had gotten pretty good at it. She bent over and looked right into Rennie's green eyes. "You are courageous and brave, and you're not going through this alone. We'll all be there for you, Mom and Dad in the waiting room, and Auntie, Alex, and me down the street at the Ronald McDonald house. We'll come visit you tonight when you get out. Lucy said she'll visit this week. Gwen's going to come see you next week when you come home, and Sam promised to help you ride a skateboard when you're better. It's all going to be okay." Rennie seemed to puff up like a balloon as Sally talked. "Sam is cute," she giggled. Sally's face got hot. "You're cute, too," Sally said back. Rennie giggled and said, "I love you," planting a sloppy wet kiss right on Sally's lips. Sally waited until Auntie had Rennie's attention before wiping her mouth off. Auntie talked to Rennie and hugged her for a long time. Auntie turned to Mom. "We'll bring you chicken and waffles for dinner at the hospital," she said. That made Mom laugh as she got into the car. Daddy buckled Rennie into her car seat and then got in behind the steering wheel. Alex came out with a red nose and joined Auntie and Sally as they blew kisses to the leaving car. Daddy looked at them and a beautiful smile flashed across his face. "Wait!" Sally screamed, running toward the Jeep. Daddy slammed on the brakes and Sally opened Rennie's door. "What are you doing?" Daddy exclaimed. Mom gave him an "it's okay" look and put her hand on his arm. "Sorry, Daddy, I need to do one more thing." Sally climbed up and leaned in close, practically rubbing noses with her spister. "Rennie, I almost forgot. I have something for you." She cupped her hands and could feel the heat from the little heart in her dream that morning. Was that a heartbeat she heard? She leaned even closer and said in Rennie's ear, "He fixed your heart and asked me to give it to you." Rennie's eyes got wide and she beamed from ear to ear. Put it in," she whispered, pointing to her chest. Sally placed her hot hands on Rennie's little chest, and the 6-year-old started to giggle. Sally kept them there a few seconds until the heat stopped. Then she pulled her hands away, clapped them against each other as if cleaning off the dust. "That should do it," she said, shutting the car door and heading back to Auntie's side. Mercury meowed loudly from his carrier in the hall, and Sally glanced back through the open front door. "It's all going to be okay," she cooed. "I'll get you out in a minute and we'll cuddle. It's all right." Just then, a warm honey feeling started dripping down Sally's head and into her whole body. She took a deep breath, enjoying this sensation, and knowing it was God talking to her. Beautiful Daddy smiled at her in her imagination. and then gave her a wink and a thumbs up. Sally smiled back. As Daddy's Jeep drove out of sight, Alex went inside. Auntie stood lost in her own thoughts, and Sally started making up a song in her head about Rennie's new heart. "It's all gonna be okay," she sang out loud, startling herself with her own voice. "What was that, darlin'?" Auntie asked, pulling herself back into the now. "It's all gonna be okay," Sally exclaimed. And the cool thing was, she believed it. The end.